Hi, obscure YouTube world. Right now, I'd like to give a little reflection on Schopenhauer's understanding of pessimism um, and the meaninglessness of life. Um, so, Schopenhauer's view is very representative of what is a common attitude, honestly. It's um, not an esoteric philosophy that's hard to understand, it's something that's very familiar. You might imagine a punk rock skater kind of person thinking that life is all just full of a bunch of BS and everybody's doing things for no apparent reason and it's all just a game, and um, that music is really important because it's more real than like this sort of institutionalized like depiction of life, which is like the man, right? Like the man has like all this order that's just like made up, and humans are always just making up stupid rules, and like the real things are like living and acting and having fun and going out and doing things. Um, Schopenhauer kind of takes that position. It's kind of subtle uh, when it's not in like a teenager, but it's pretty real. I'm just going to read you the last passage of The World as Will and Representation. Before I do, I want to kind of just say a couple things about the philosophy that he propounds in that book. Basically, he says that the human experience is a representation. So, like, you are experiencing an objective world with, like your senses and your mind, and that the objective world outside of you can't be experienced apart from your mind. And so, really, you only know the world as representation. And so, the world is a representation. But in our own experience, we can have knowledge of something in like an abstract way, reflection, conceptually. We can also have something that's more immediate, like a perception, like an intuition, kind of this deeper knowledge. And that's usually like more toward your senses, more toward your body, like something that's more like animal in nature, more instinctual, more active in a way, less reflective. And he calls that like the thing that's doing that the will. And so like you have a will inside yourself that determines all your actions, but you can't like describe it conceptually. It's just like you act for some reasons. You can attribute reasons for how you act in like all these different ways, but like that you do act the way you do is a complete mystery. Like that you do have a bunch of reasons, and that like even the way your DNA is wired, like everything can be explained in terms of causality, but like underneath causality, like why causality is there, it's like totally a mystery. And so in that way, it's like you behave in a completely mysterious, meaningless way. You can't describe it conceptually, and so it's meaningless. Um, so your will basically has motives, and it makes you represent the world in a certain way. Um, and we only know the world as a representation. And so, because this will is like more immediate and more real in a way, it's more ultimate in importance. Yet it's like not conceptualizable or really representable except from like intuitive knowledge. Um, Everything that you can conceptually reflect on or like kind of observe, the more apparent it is, the more of an illusion it is to the will. It's more, it's more separated from that like instinctual world. And so, like, a city with all of the huge skyscrapers and um, the infrastructure systems. You've got sewage systems. You've got electrical wires going everywhere. You've got all these complex social interactions, the work-life balance, the pulse of people going on the subways and then going home or going to work, all the restaurants and all the telecommunications that are between all the buildings, all the maintenance workers who keep the city going. All of that is really human. It's really controlled by humans. And so it's like divorced or further away from like the will in itself. And so like nature is a much more immediate reality, than cities. Cities are more ordered and regulated, and you kind of feel they feel stuffy because they're far away from this like really significant reality. And that's why like music is so significant and art are so significant, because it brings us back into like the ground of our being. It's like this more important part of ourselves, and it's like more immediate access to um, the the energy that's in us, that's making us do all these sorts of things. And by knowing art and music, we have access into like the world in its like essence. Um, and you can also do this just by like admiring nature and like having an experience of beauty. Like you get closer to the real thing when you kind of move toward an aesthetic direction rather than a rational direction. So the like analytical understanding of the world is really an illusion, even though it can be give you predictions that are accurate of like how everything works and gives you like true understanding. It's like in a way false. It's like false to the significance of reality, because like reality in itself is like meaningless, but that doesn't mean that it's not beautiful or you know, sort of free and a release. And um, it's not practical to be in that willless knowing, like that objective consciousness of just like I'm seeing the world in its essence. Like it sets you free and there's like a liberty there, but it's like it doesn't have like a real practical reason. It seems to be a waste, because like everything is trying to like have linear causes and effects. And so like, you know, when you betray the like incessant neediness of society and like human needs, and you kind of uh, deny the representation world, you kind of like move back into your like core, like that will part of you. And so like you kind of relax in that state. Which, you know, you can think of like teenagers coming back and like smoking pot and just like listening to music, and they're like tired of like all the stupidity of like how societies all work and like all that, like, and they just listen to music and relax and just like dopamine out on like the wonder of just being in the moment. Like, you know, I'm kind of making it sound like it's an immature view, but like you can also imagine an old man just sitting at a lake and just sitting on a bench and looking out at the water and not having an opinion at all and just experiencing the lake. That is a very we think of that as saintly behavior. You know, we aspire to that. We see that that kind of person has gone past the stupidity of our you know, restless strivings of, oh, uh, I have to get money so that I can go to college, so that I can get a good job, so that I can get a wife, so that I can have kids, so that I can have a house, so that I can get a car, so that I can, you know, get a better job and like go up the corporate ladder. It's all a game, you know, like the old man who just can sit on a shoreline and just like drink tea and appreciate it, even if he's poor, like that we consider is like a very high achievement. Um, it's sort of higher than just like outward worldly success. And so that's kind of Schopenhauer's project. It's just kind of like the first video. The next one, I'll kind of dig into it a little bit more. This will probably be like 3 videos. Thanks for chiming in.